Are you one of the many people worldwide currently experiencing a spiritual awakening? What does that even mean? The definition of awakening, in this sense, is that the woke person has a different, rather expanded view of existence than they did before. The world has become a different place to them, much like a child's world is much different than the world of an adult. The easiest way to understand this is just to say that their level of awareness has changed, the micro versus the macro. And along with this expanded awareness comes certain signs and symptoms, which I would like to cover now. If you are currently actively experiencing an awakening process, many of the things, if not all, that I'm going to talk about will be familiar to you. Chances are, if you're watching this video, you are in that process. And likely, you have a new sense of yourself. Your inner life has changed. You've had a shift of how you feel inside, and your psychological experience and how you experience the world has expanded. It is like you are reborn or having a psychedelic experience of being more. This realization can be slow. Sometimes it can only be recognized in retrospect, or it can happen immediately so that you can easily pinpoint exactly when it occurred. Everyone's journey is unique. One thing is for sure, you have a new sense of inner quietness. As you are experiencing a dramatic reduction of inner noise or thought chatter, you realize how much this thought chatter has affected your life, usually in a negative way. Many people have reported that their out-of-control chatter has become almost non-existent. Yet others say it is a slower process for them. In all cases, however, it can be stated that self-identification with those thought patterns has drastically reduced. There are many modalities which can help you consciously control this, if you so desire. When we are asleep or on autopilot, we are ruled by our unconscious programming and many times see ourselves as a victim of the world rather than an integral piece of the whole. We find ourselves responding to people and events as opposed to reacting with conscious intent. Quite a lot of people are on a cycle that is completely unconscious, suffering addictions to cortisol, the stress hormone, and sugar and the chemicals found in modern food. Once the realization of unconscious cycle of suffering is made, one can do something about it. After all, how can you resolve an issue that you don't even realize is an issue? You have likely become aware of all of this and are taking steps to overcome it. These steps will likely include living and eating as cleanly as possible, drinking more water and having knowledge of its sourcing. Also moving, exercising, and breathing differently, as one of the major pitfalls of modern society is shallow breathing. The results of these actions will have you feeling, being, and looking better. At the same time, the people around you are likely taking note of your metamorphosis, especially if you are no longer participating in the same old, same old. As we are all aware of, change is something the human race is generally threatened by. However, when you change on the inside, the outside will reflect that change as well. You find yourself redefining your personal, business, and social relationships to meet your needs. Almost as if by magic, certain people, relationships, and things drift out of your life or come into sync with you, and you feel no sense of guilt or nostalgia for the old ways. Some things take a more conscious effort, but you have a sense of knowing that all is okay. And all is okay. Because along with your evolving self, your beliefs are changing, regardless of religious or cultural background. You have a keen awareness of the creative spiritual force that pervades all things, even and especially the spaces in between, the is and the is not. Some call it Source, God, or all that is. Whatever you call it, you have a deep love and admiration for it and only aspire to understand it and your place in it. This recognition allows you to reimagine yourself and your life in ways you never thought were possible. And the best way to do that is through witnessing and experiencing all its creations without judgment. This is not to say you are all love and light. There are things and people in this world that are objectively bad for humans, but they have their place and purpose in the cycle of creation, and you recognize that. Materialistic science, which holds that matter is the fundamental substance in nature, cannot hold back the truckloads of data generated over at least the last 100 years, which points to consciousness being the central and crucial force fundamental to nature. As more and more of this information ekes out, it's validating thousands of years of ancient teachings. You are likely aware of the more famous ones, especially the double-slit experiment, which has been repeated hundreds of times. Studies on resonance and magnetic fields have likely allowed your left brain sensibilities to wrap your whole being around the idea that the universe is mental. This puts the responsibilities of your happiness, where you go, what you experience, and how you experience it squarely in your lap. It is a lot of information to assimilate, and further lightens, your way of being in the world. The dogmatic culture of materialistic science seems more like a control mechanism to you now. It feeds on the idea of humans being small, insignificant accidents of nature, even suggesting that humanity is a cancer on the universe, thereby majorly contributing to victim consciousness. After all, supposedly you have no control, and are a pawn to be pushed around by the forces in this world, as a small, insignificant accident of nature. You likely have opened yourself up to consider alternative scientific viewpoints, such as biocentrism and the electric universe. These endeavors have helped you to sharpen your critical thinking skills, and the more you learn through your own studies, reaffirm for you are on the right path. In summary, you likely have increased your capacity for empathy and compassion for all of the beings in creation, and you see them now as part of or extensions of you. Your sense of well-being has also increased, as well as gratitude. Your fear of death has mostly subsided because you realize that deep inside you that you are an eternal being. After all, the first law of thermodynamics states that energy can neither be created or destroyed, but only transformed from one form to another. You likely no longer assign your identity to a group, whether it be political, religious, familiar, or national. When asleep, humans are guided externally to invest their energies in the collective group consciousness due to feeling powerless and having a fragile sense of self or ego. That is not you anymore. That is not to say that you don't join groups or movements, but you do it for an entirely different reason. You recognize how politics, celebrity drama, and most all forms of news only serve to deplete your energy and keep you in lower states of awareness, mostly through fear. You keep yourself informed, but you no longer resonate with this lower form of consciousness. It zaps your energy, and are a constant source of stress, which provoke fear-based, all-encompassing thought spirals, which leave you depleted. You experience time differently. It seems faster or slower at different times, and are aware of the studies which show conclusively that time itself is a construct created in your brain. There is so much more to talk about, like synchronicities, the powers and vibration of the words you use and the thoughts you experience. You probably are interested in breaking subconscious programming and how to change it. Not to mention sacred geometry, the Fibonacci sequence, but most importantly, you have probably realized that in order to change the world, and it does desperately need change, is to change your world. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed or find value in our content, please take a moment to like and subscribe.